The Zorak, a fierce alien race with shiny black scales and glowing red eyes, thought they could do whatever they wanted. They believed humans were weak and wouldn't fight back. Far out in space, where stars were just tiny specks of light, they found a small human trade ship drifting quietly. It was a secret place, hidden in the darkness between galaxies, where no one would see what they did. The Zorak thought it was the perfect spot for their cruel plan. Their ships, sleek and sharp like knives, surrounded the human vessel. The trade ship was small, shaped like a long silver tube with glowing blue engines. It carried food, tools, and supplies for a human colony on a distant planet. The people inside were workers, families, and traders just trying to do their jobs. They weren't soldiers. They didn't have big weapons or fancy shields. The Zorak knew this and saw an easy target. Without warning, the Zorak attacked. Their ships fired grappling hooks that latched onto the human ship like claws. Metal groaned as the hooks dug in, pulling the vessels together. The Zorak didn't send a message or ask for surrender. They didn't care about talking. They boarded the ship, their heavy boots clanging on the metal floors. Their voices hissed like snakes as they shouted orders in their strange language. The humans were scared. There were 10 of them on the ship, 6 men and 4 women. They were engineers, cooks, and pilots, not fighters. They tried to hide in storage rooms or behind crates, but the Zorak found them. The aliens were tall, with long arms and sharp claws that glinted in the ship's dim lights. They grabbed the humans, tying their hands with strong, sticky ropes that burned their skin. The humans shouted for help, but no one could hear them in the vast emptiness of space. The Zorak didn't care about the people they captured. To them, humans were just things to be taken, like treasure or toys. They locked the 10 humans in a cold, dark room on their biggest ship. The room had no windows, only a faint hum from the engines vibrating through the walls. The humans sat close together, whispering to each other, trying to stay brave. They didn't know where they were going or what would happen next. Meanwhile, the Zorak searched the human ship. They tore open boxes, spilling food and clothes onto the floor. They took everything valuable: tools, machines, even the ship's computer parts. They loaded the stolen goods onto their own ships, laughing as they worked. To them, it was a game. They planned to sell the cargo for money on a shady space market where no one asked questions. The humans. The Zorak didn't care what happened to them. They thought no one would notice 10 missing people in the giant galaxy. The leader of the Zorak, a tall alien named Kravos, stood on the bridge of his ship, watching his crew work. His scales were darker than the others, almost black, and his eyes glowed brighter like fire. He grinned, showing sharp teeth as he thought about the money they would make. "Humans are nothing," he said to his second-in-command, a smaller Zorak named Sleen. "They're soft. They break easily. No one will care about this ship or its crew." Sleen nodded, his claws clicking on the control panel. "We'll sell the goods at the shadow market," he said. "No one will know they came from humans." The shadow market was a secret place where pirates and thieves traded stolen things. It was far from Earth, hidden in a cloudy nebula where laws didn't matter. The Zorak felt safe there. They thought they could do anything and get away with it. But they were wrong. The galaxy wasn't as quiet as they thought. Other ships from other worlds saw what happened. A tiny scout drone from a nearby planet recorded the attack. It was small, no bigger than a soccer ball, and the Zorak didn't notice it floating in the shadows. The drone sent a signal to its home base, a trading post run by a friendly alien race called the Velans. The Velans were peaceful, but they didn't like bullies. They watched the video of the Zorak attacking the human ship and shook their furry heads. "This is bad," said the Velan leader, a short creature with big ears named Tila. "The Zorak think they can hurt anyone and no one will stop them." She sent the video to other planets, to anyone who would listen. The signal traveled fast, bouncing from station to station across the stars. Soon, many worlds knew what the Zorak had done. They whispered about it in markets, in meeting halls, and on busy space stations. The news spread like a spark in dry grass. Back on Earth, people were starting to hear the news too. The human trade ship had sent a distress call just before the Zorak attacked. It was weak, barely a whisper in the static of space, but it reached a small Earth outpost on a rocky moon. The outpost was a listening station, a place where humans kept track of ships and signals. A young officer named Mia was on duty when the call came in. She was new, only 20 years old, but she was smart and paid attention to every sound. Mia listened to the faint message. It was garbled, full of static, but she heard a human voice say, "Zorak attacking, help." Then it cut off. Mia's heart raced. She knew the Zorak were dangerous. She sent the message to her boss, a tough commander named Harris. He was an older man with gray hair and a scar across his cheek from a battle long ago. He listened to the message and frowned. "This isn't good," Harris said, rubbing his chin. "That ship was one of ours. Those people are our family." He didn't mean family like brothers or sisters, but like people who belonged to Earth, who trusted Earth to keep them safe. Harris sent the message to Earth's leaders, a group called the Council. They were in charge of protecting humans, no matter where they were in the galaxy. The Council met in a big building in a city called New Horizon. It was a tall tower made of glass and steel, shining under Earth's sun. Inside, men and women sat around a long table, watching the distress call on a screen. They were angry and sad. One woman, Counselor Lena, stood up. She had short black hair and a voice that was calm but strong. "The Zorak think they can take our people and our things," she said. "They think we won't fight back. They're wrong." The council agreed. They didn't shout or make big speeches. They were quiet, but their eyes were sharp, like people who knew what to do. They started making plans, sending messages to other human outposts and ships. They didn't want the Zorak to know they were coming. They wanted to be smart, to be sneaky, to show the Zorak that humans weren't weak. Meanwhile, the 10 captured humans were still locked in the Zorak ship. They were cold and hungry, but they didn't give up hope. One of them, a young engineer named Sam, was good at fixing things. He whispered to the others, "We need to stay strong. Earth will find us." Sam had a sister back on Earth, a hacker named Ellie who could break into any computer. He knew she would never stop looking for him. Another human, a cook named Maria, was older, with gray streaks in her hair. She had a son who was a pilot in Earth's fleet. She held the hands of the younger humans, telling them stories to keep them calm. "My boy will come for us," she said. "He flies faster than anyone." The others nodded, believing her, even though they were scared. The Zorak didn't know it, but their attack had started something big. They thought they had won, that they could take what they wanted and leave. They thought the galaxy wouldn't care about 10 humans, but the galaxy was watching and it wasn't happy. Other alien races like the Velans and the blue-skinned Taurians started talking about the Zorak. They didn't like how the Zorak acted like they owned space. They didn't like bullies. On a busy space station called Nexus, where ships from many worlds stopped to trade, people talked about the attack. A Taurian merchant with skin like a clear blue sky told his friends, "The Zorak went too far this time. Humans don't give up easily." A Velan trader nodded, sipping a drink that glowed green. "I heard Earth is already planning something," she said. "The Zorak won't know what hit them." The Zorak were still laughing, counting their stolen goods. Kravos, their leader, stood on his ship's bridge, looking at a screen that showed the human cargo they had taken. He thought it was a perfect plan. Sell the goods, maybe sell the humans too, and get rich. He didn't know that a tiny drone had seen everything. He didn't know that Earth was listening, that signals were flying across the stars, that people were talking. The humans on the captured ship were tired, but they held onto hope. Sam, the engineer, found a loose panel in their cell. He didn't tell the Zorak guards, but he started working on it, trying to make a tool from a piece of metal. Maria kept the others calm, telling them about her son's fast ship. They didn't know how, but they believed Earth would come for them. Far away on Earth, Commander Harris and Counselor Lena were already moving. They sent secret messages to human ships, telling them to watch the Zorak. They called Ellie, Sam's sister, and Maria's son, the pilot. They were building a team, not to start a war, but to show the Zorak that humans weren't helpless. The galaxy was watching, and Earth was ready to act. The Zorak thought they had won an easy victory. They thought no one cared about a small trade ship or 10 humans. They thought they could hide in the shadows of space. But they didn't know the truth. The galaxy wasn't silent. It was buzzing with whispers, with plans, with anger. And Earth was wide awake, ready to show the Zorak they had made a big mistake. The 10 humans trapped by the Zorak weren't just random people. Each one had someone who loved them, someone strong and important who would never let them be forgotten. The Zorak thought they could take these people, and no one would care. They didn't know they had picked a fight with the wrong families. These humans had connections to brilliant minds, brave fighters, and clever builders across Earth and beyond. The Zorak had no idea what kind of trouble they had started. One of the captured humans was Sam, a young engineer with messy brown hair and a quick smile. He was only 22, but he was great at fixing machines. Sam could take a broken engine and make it hum like new in just a few hours. He wasn't a soldier, but he was smart and never gave up. Back on Earth, he had a sister named Ellie. She was a genius hacker who built artificial intelligence systems for Earth's space fleet. Ellie could talk to computers like they were her friends, making them do things no one else could. When she heard Sam was taken, her heart sank, but her mind started racing. She wasn't going to sit still. She was already planning to find her brother. Another human was Maria, a cook with warm eyes and a kind voice. She was older, with gray streaks in her dark hair, and she always carried a small notebook where she wrote recipes. Maria made the best meals on the trade ship, keeping everyone happy with her spicy soups and soft breads. Her son, Leo, was a pilot in Earth's fleet, known for flying faster than anyone else. He could steer his ship through asteroid fields without a scratch. Leo loved his mom and called her every week, even when he was light years away. When he learned the Zorak had her, He gripped the controls of his ship so hard his knuckles turned white. He wasn't just angry, he was ready to fly straight to her. Then there was Aisha, a young navigator who always wore a bright red scarf. She was amazing at reading star maps, guiding the trade ship through tricky parts of space. Aisha had a best friend named Zara, a scientist who worked on Earth's biggest space station. Zara built new kinds of fuel that made ships go faster and farther. The two had grown up together, sharing dreams of exploring the stars. When Zara heard Aisha was gone, she stopped her experiments and started thinking of ways to help. She knew the Zorax ships used old tech, and she had ideas about how to mess with them. Another captured human was Tom, a mechanic with strong hands and a quiet laugh. He kept the trade ship's engines running smoothly, even when parts were hard to find. Tom had a brother, Marcus, who was a commander in Earth's defense force. Marcus had fought space pirates and won battles that seemed impossible. He was tough, with a scar on his jaw from a close call years ago. When Marcus got the news about Tom, he didn't shout or cry. He just nodded and started calling his team together. The Zorak didn't know they had taken the brother of a man who never lost a fight. Leela was a medic on the ship, always ready with a bandage or a kind word. She was small but brave, with curly hair she tied back when she worked. Leela's dad, Dr. Chen, was a famous doctor who built medical robots that could save lives on faraway planets. He taught Leela everything she knew about helping people. When Dr. Chen heard his daughter was locked up by the Zorak, he closed his lab and started talking to his contacts in the science world. He knew people who could build things to find her, maybe even machines that could sneak past the Zorak's defenses. One of the younger humans was Jamal, a tech assistant who loved fixing computers. He was shy but clever, always tinkering with wires and screens. His cousin, Nia, was a builder who designed space stations. She was famous for making strong, safe places where people could live in deep space. Nia and Jamal used to send each other funny messages, joking about who was better with tools. When Nia found out Jamal was taken, she stopped her latest project and started sketching plans. She thought about ways to block the Zorak signal or trap their ships. Then there was Elena, a teacher who helped the kids on the trade ship learn math and science. She had a soft voice but a sharp mind, always encouraging her students to think big. Elena's wife, Captain Sophia, was a leader in Earth's exploration fleet. Sophia had explored unknown planets and met alien races no one else had seen. She was bold, with a habit of tapping her foot when she was thinking hard. When Sophia heard Elena was captured, she canceled her next mission and turned her ship toward the last place the trade ship was seen. She wasn't going to let the Zorak keep her wife. Another human was Raj, a cargo handler who was strong enough to lift heavy crates without a machine. He had a big laugh that echoed through the ship, making everyone feel better. Raj's best friend, Kiera, was a weapons expert who trained Earth soldiers. She knew how to build and use tools that could stop an enemy without hurting anyone. When Kiera learned Raj was gone, she started gathering her gear, thinking about ways to surprise the Zorak. She didn't want a war, but she was ready to make them sorry. There was also May, a communications officer who kept the trade ship's radios working. She was great at sending clear messages, even through stormy space signals. May's older brother, Lee, was a diplomat who talked to alien leaders to keep peace. Lee was calm and smart, always finding ways to solve problems without fighting. When he heard May was taken, he started calling his alien friends, asking for help. He knew the Zorak weren't liked by many races, and he thought he could get others to stand with Earth. Finally, there was Ben, a janitor who kept the trade ship clean and safe. He was quiet, but he noticed everything, like when a pipe was about to break or a light was flickering. Ben's aunt, Clara, was a spy for Earth, working in secret to learn about other planets. Clara could sneak into places no one else could and find information others missed. When she heard Ben was captured, she slipped into a hidden room and started reading reports about the Zorak. She was already planning her next move. These 10 humans weren't just workers on a trade ship. They were connected to people who had skills, courage, and power. Ellie, the hacker, was already tapping into networks, looking for signals from the Zorak ships. Leo, the pilot, was checking his ship's engines, ready to chase them down. Zara, the scientist, was sketching ideas for new tech to stop the Zorak. Marcus, the commander, was gathering his best fighters, planning a rescue. Dr. Chen, Nia, Sophia, Kiera, Lee, and Clara were all moving, thinking, working. They weren't going to let their loved ones stay trapped. The Zorak didn't know who they had taken. They thought these humans were nobody, just a small crew on a little ship. They didn't check who Sam's sister was or who Maria's son was. They didn't know about Zara's inventions or Marcus's battles. They didn't realize that by taking these 10 people, they had woken up a whole network of humans who wouldn't stop until their families were safe. On Earth, the news about the trade ship was spreading. People in cities and towns talked about it in hushed voices. They didn't know all the details, but they knew the Zorak had done something awful. Kids at school whispered about the missing ship, wondering if the stories about the Zorak's sharp claws were true. Parents told their children to be brave, that Earth's leaders were working on it. Everyone felt like those 10 humans were part of their big human family. The council, the group of leaders on Earth, was already hearing from the families. Ellie showed up at their tower, her laptop glowing with code as she explained how she could track the Zorak. Leo sent a message from his ship, saying he was ready to fly anywhere. Zara and Dr. Chen sent plans for new tools to help. Marcus, Sophia, Kiera, Nia, Lee, and Clara all reached out, each offering something different: ideas, ships, skills, or secrets. The Zorak thought they had won an easy prize. They thought they could lock up 10 humans, sell their stuff, and move on. They didn't know that each of those humans was tied to someone who wouldn't give up. They didn't know that Ellie was already hacking their signals, or that Leo was fueling his ship. They didn't know that Zara was building something new, or that Marcus was planning a fight. They didn't know that Dr. Chen, Nia, Sophia, Kiera, Lee, and Clara were all coming for them. The galaxy wasn't as big as the Zorak thought. Word was spreading, not just on Earth but on other planets too. The Velans, with their big ears and kind hearts, sent messages to Earth, offering to help. The Taurians, with their blue skin, promised to watch for Zorak ships. Even the quiet Ulans, a race of tiny aliens who loved books, started writing stories about the brave humans who wouldn't let their people stay captured. The Zorak had made a big mistake. They thought they could take 10 humans and no one would notice. They thought humans were weak, easy to forget. But they didn't know about Ellie's code, Leo's speed, Zara's inventions, or Marcus's courage. They didn't know about Dr. Chen's robots, Nia's stations, Sophia's explorations, Kiara's weapons, Lee's friends, or Clara's secrets. They didn't know that these 10 humans were loved, and that love was stronger than any Zorak ship. The Zorak had hurt the wrong people. They thought they were safe, far out in the secret darkness of space. But the families of those 10 humans were already moving, planning, and fighting back. The Zorak didn't know it yet, but they had started something they couldn't stop. The galaxy was watching, and Earth was ready to show everyone what humans could do when someone they loved was in danger. The humans didn't shout or make big speeches when they heard about the Zorak taking their people. They didn't send angry messages or threaten war. Instead, they started to act, moving quietly like shadows in the night. They knew the Zorak thought humans were weak, but they were ready to prove them wrong. Small, clever moves began to happen across space, catching the Zorak off guard. At first, the aliens didn't take it seriously, but something big was starting and they couldn't stop it. It began near an asteroid belt, a messy stretch of space filled with spinning rocks and dust clouds. A Zorak ship, long and sharp like a dagger, was patrolling the area. It was a scout ship sent to check for human activity. The crew was relaxed, joking in their hissing language, thinking no one would dare challenge them. But then, without a sound, their ship vanished. The radar screens on nearby Zorak ships went blank. No signal, no debris, no sign of a fight. It was like the scout ship had never existed. The humans were behind it. Ellie, the genius hacker and sister of Sam, one of the captured humans, had been working non-stop. She sat in a small room on Earth, her eyes glued to a glowing computer screen. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, sending secret codes through space. Ellie had found a way to sneak into the Zorak's ship systems. She didn't need guns or bombs. She used her brain, turning off the ship's power with a few clever commands. The scout ship floated helplessly in the asteroid belt, its lights dark and its engines silent. A human team, hidden nearby in a cloaked ship, towed it away before the Zorak could figure out what happened. The Zorak didn't know what to think. Their leader, Kravos, got the report on his command ship. He slammed his clawed hand on a table, his red eyes narrowing. "A glitch," he growled. "It's just a broken machine." His crew nodded, but they weren't so sure. They checked their systems, but everything seemed fine. They laughed it off, thinking it was bad luck. They didn't know the humans were watching, planning, and striking when no one was looking. A few days later, another strange thing happened. A Zorak supply station, a big metal platform floating near a red star, stopped working. This station was important. It sent food, fuel, and tools to Zorak outposts across the sector. Without it, their ships would struggle to keep going. One morning, the station's lights flickered and died. The machines that sorted cargo shut down. The radios went quiet. The Zorak workers inside were confused, running around in the dark, trying to fix things. But nothing worked. This was Zara's doing. Zara, the scientist and best friend of Aisha, one of the captured humans, had a plan. She was on a human space station, working with a team of engineers. They built a tiny device, no bigger than a baseball, that could mess with power systems. Zara's team loaded the device onto a small drone and sent it to the Zorak station. The drone was fast and quiet, slipping past the station's scanners. It attached the device to the station's main power core. With one signal from Zara, the device sent a surge that fried every circuit. The station went dark, and the Zorak were left scratching their scaly heads. The Zorak still didn't see the pattern. They thought the station's failure was just another accident. Kravos sent a team to check it out, but when they got there, they found nothing. No attackers, no weapons, no clues. The humans were careful, leaving no trace of their work. Kravos shouted at his crew, telling them to be more alert. "Fix it fast," he hissed. But deep down, he was starting to feel uneasy. Something wasn't right. Back on Earth, the humans were moving like a well-oiled machine. Commander Marcus, the brother of Tom, the captured mechanic, was leading a small group of pilots and tech experts. Marcus was tough but smart, always thinking 2 steps ahead. He didn't want a big fight that would hurt people. Instead, he wanted to make the Zorak nervous, to make them doubt themselves. He met with Ellie and Zara in a secret room on Earth's biggest spaceport. The room was plain, with just a table and a few screens, but it was buzzing with ideas. "We hit them where it hurts," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "No blood, no battles. We take their control away." Ellie nodded, her laptop open, showing maps of Zorak ships and stations. Zara held up a sketch of her next device, a tiny gadget that could jam Zorak radios. They were building a plan piece by piece to make the Zorak feel weak without firing a single shot. The next move happened near a Zorak mining base on a rocky planet. The base was small but busy, digging up rare metals to build Zorak weapons. One night, the base's alarm stopped working. The computers that tracked shipments froze. The lights dimmed and the mining machines ground to a halt. The Zorak guards ran outside, expecting an attack, but found nothing, just silence and a cold, dark base. They didn't know that Leo, Maria's son and the fastest pilot in Earth's fleet, had flown a stealth ship nearby. He dropped a signal jammer built by Zara that shut down the base's systems for hours. The Zorak were getting frustrated. Kravos got another report, this time about the mining base. He paced the bridge of his ship, his claws clicking on the floor. "This is no accident," he muttered to Sleen, his second in command. Sleen's eyes darted nervously. "Maybe it's pirates," he said. Kravos shook his head. Pirates would steal, not just break things. This was different. It felt planned, like someone was playing a game with them. The humans kept going. A Zorak transport ship, carrying food to one of their colonies, lost its navigation system. It drifted off course, spinning slowly in space until a human rescue team picked it up. The Zorak crew was confused but unharmed, dropped off at a neutral space station. The humans didn't hurt them. They just took the food and sent it to a human colony that needed it. Ellie had hacked the ship's navigation, making it think it was heading to a Zorak planet when it was really going nowhere. Each move was small but smart. A Zorak fuel depot stopped pumping gas. A communication tower stopped sending signals. A cargo drone vanished into a nebula. The humans worked like ghosts, never showing themselves, never leaving a trace. They used drones, codes, and tiny devices to make the Zorak's lives harder. It was like poking a giant with a stick, not enough to knock it down, but enough to make it angry and confused. The Zorak started to argue among themselves. On their main ship, Kravos yelled at his engineers, demanding answers. "Why are our systems failing?" he roared. The engineers checked and rechecked, but they found no viruses, no damage, nothing to explain it. The humans were too clever, covering their tracks. Sleen whispered to another officer, "What if it's the humans?" The officer laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. The idea was starting to spread among the Zorak like a whisper they couldn't ignore. On Earth, the families of the captured humans were working together. Dr. Chen, Leela's dad, built a tiny robot that could sneak onto Zorak ships and mess with their lights. Nia, Jamal's cousin, designed a fake signal that made Zorak scanners think a human fleet was nearby, scaring them into hiding. Captain Sophia, Alina's wife, flew scout missions to watch Zorak movements, sending the information back to Marcus. Kiera, Raj's friend, tested new tools that could disable Zorak weapons without firing a shot. Lee, May's brother, talked to alien allies, convincing them to stop trading with the Zorak. Clara, Ben's aunt, slipped into a Zorak outpost disguised as a trader, planting a device that scrambled their computers. The humans were a team, each person doing their part. They didn't want to destroy the Zorak or start a war. They wanted their people back, and they wanted the Zorak to know they couldn't just take what they wanted. Every small attack was a message. We're here. We're watching. We're not afraid. The Zorak didn't understand the message yet, but they were starting to feel it. The galaxy was noticing too. On the Nexus space station, traders and pilots talked about the strange things happening to the Zorak. A Velen merchant with big ears and a fluffy tail said, "The humans are doing this. They're fighting back." A Taurian captain, his blue skin shining under the station's lights, nodded. "I heard they took a Zorak ship without firing a shot. That's smart." The stories spread, making the humans sound clever and brave. Other races started to respect Earth, something the Zorak never expected. The Zorak were still laughing, but their laughs were quieter now. Kravo stood on his ship, staring at a map of the sector. Red dots marked where their ships and stations had gone dark. There were too many dots, too many problems. "Find out who's doing this," he shouted. But his crew had no answers. They didn't know that Ellie's codes were sneaking through their systems, that Zara's devices were hiding in their machines, that Leo's ship was faster than their scanners. They didn't know that Marcus, Sophia, Kiera, Nia, Lee, Dr. Chen, and Clara were all working together, each move planned like a chess game. The humans weren't loud or showy. They didn't need to be. Their small acts of revenge were adding up like drops of water wearing down a rock. A missing ship here, a broken station there. It was all part of a bigger plan. The Zorak thought they were in control, but they were wrong. The humans were just getting started, and the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. General Vark, a tall Zorak with dark scales and glowing red eyes, stood on the bridge of his command ship. He was one of the Zorak's top leaders, known for being tough and smart. His ship was huge, shaped like a jagged spear, with walls covered in blinking screens and buzzing controls. Vark had fought in many battles and always won, so he wasn't used to feeling uneasy. But now something felt wrong. Reports were coming in from across the Zorak's territory, and they didn't make sense. Ships were disappearing. Stations were going dark. Vark stared at the screens, his claws tapping nervously. He was starting to see a pattern, and it made his stomach twist. At first, Vark thought the problems were just bad luck. A scout ship vanished in an asteroid belt. A supply station lost power. A mining base stopped working. These things could happen in space. Machines break, signals get lost. But the reports kept coming, one after another, like rain that wouldn't stop. Vark called his officers to the bridge, a wide room filled with Zorak soldiers in shiny armor. "Tell me what's happening," he growled, his voice low and sharp. His officers shuffled their feet, their eyes darting to the floor. They didn't have answers, and that made Vark's scales bristle. One officer, a young Zorak named Trell, held up a tablet with a list of incidents. "Sir, it's not just one thing," Trell said, his voice shaky. "5 ships have gone missing in the same sector. 3 stations lost power at the exact same time. And yesterday a cargo drone never reached its planet." Vark leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "Show me," he said. Trell tapped the screen and a map appeared, glowing with red dots where things had gone wrong. The dots weren't scattered, they were clustered, all in the same part of space. Vark's claws stopped tapping. This wasn't random. Someone was doing this on purpose. Vark thought about the human trade ship they had attacked weeks ago. The Zorak had taken 10 humans and their cargo, thinking no one would care. Humans were small and soft, not like the Zorak with their sharp claws and strong ships. Vark had laughed when he heard about the attack, proud of his leader Kravos for the easy win. But now, looking at the map, Vark wasn't laughing. "Could it be the humans?" he asked, his voice quieter now. Trell looked nervous. "Humans. They don't have the power to do this," he said, but he didn't sound sure. Vark sent Trell to gather more information. He wanted to know everything: where the ships were last seen, what the stations reported before they went dark, anything that could explain the pattern. Trell came back hours later, his scales paler than usual. "Sir, we found something strange," he said. "The missing ships all lost their signals at the same moment. The stations reported no attacks, no explosions, just silence. It's like someone turned them off." Vark's eyes glowed brighter. "Turned them off," he repeated. "Who could do that without being seen?" Vark called a meeting with his top advisors. They sat around a long table, the room lit by the glow of their screens. The advisors were older Zorak, their scales scarred from years of fighting. They argued loudly, their voices hissing. "It's pirates," one said, slamming his claw on the table. "They're stealing our ships," another shook his head. "Pirates leave wrecks, we found nothing." A third advisor, a female Zorak named Clyra, spoke up. "What if it's the humans we attacked? What if they're fighting back?" The room went quiet. No one wanted to believe it, but the idea stuck in their minds like a thorn. Vark didn't want to panic his crew, but he couldn't ignore the facts. He sent out scout drones to check the sector where the problems were happening. The drones were small, buzzing machines that could fly fast and hide in the shadows. They searched the asteroid belt, the red star system, and the rocky planet where the mining base had gone quiet. But they found nothing. No human ships, no weapons, no clues. It was like chasing ghosts. Vark's unease grew. Whoever was doing this was clever, and they didn't want to be found. Meanwhile, the Zorak's problems kept getting worse. A communication tower on a desert moon stopped working. It was a key tower, used to send orders to Zorak ships across the galaxy. Without it, their fleet was like a body without a voice. The Zorak engineers tried to fix it, but every time they turned it on, the signal scrambled. It was Ellie, the human hacker, working her magic from Earth. She had slipped a tiny piece of code into the tower system, making it send nonsense instead of orders. The Zorak didn't know it was her, but they felt the chaos. Another day, a Zorak fuel ship got stuck in a nebula, a cloudy part of space where stars glowed dimly. The ship was carrying gas to power their fighters, but its engines shut down without warning. The crew was stranded, floating in the fog. Leo, the human pilot and Maria's son, had flown a stealth ship nearby. He used a device from Zara, the scientist, to mess with the fuel ship's controls. The Zorak crew was safe but confused, unable to move until a rescue team arrived. They didn't see Leo's ship slip away, hidden by the nebula's mist. Vark got these reports and felt his anger growing. He wasn't used to losing control. The Zorak were supposed to be the strongest, the ones who scared others. But now their own systems were failing and they didn't know why. Vark called Kravos, the Zorak leader who had ordered the attack on the human ship. Kravos was on a bigger ship, far away, counting the money from the stolen cargo. "What's going on, Vark?" Kravos asked, his voice sharp through the radio. Vark explained the missing ships, the dark stations, the silent towers. Kravos laughed, but it was a forced laugh. "Fix it," he said. "Don't let a few accidents make us look weak." Vark wanted to believe it was just accidents, but the pattern was too clear. He started to think about the humans they had captured. He hadn't cared about them before, just 10 soft creatures locked in a cell. But now he wondered who they were. Did they have friends, families, people who could do this kind of damage? Vark sent a message to the ship holding the humans, ordering the guards to check on them. The guards reported back. The humans were still there, cold and quiet, but alive. Vark frowned. If the humans were locked up, who was causing all this trouble? The Zorak started to take precautions. Vark ordered his ships to travel in pairs, thinking it would make them harder to attack. He told his stations to double their guards and check their systems every hour. But the humans were one step ahead. Nia, the builder and Jamal's cousin, had designed a tiny drone that could sneak past Zorak scanners. It looked like a piece of space junk, but inside it carried a device that could shut down alarms. Nia's drone floated to a Zorak outpost and turned off its defenses. The outpost didn't even know it was vulnerable until its lights flickered and died. The Zorak soldiers were getting nervous. They whispered to each other in the halls of their ships, their claws clicking anxiously. "What if the humans are stronger than we thought?" one soldier asked. Another shook his head. "Humans, they're nothing. This is just bad tech." But the whispers grew louder, spreading from ship to ship. The Zorak were starting to doubt themselves, and that was exactly what the humans wanted. On a busy Zorak colony, a market where they traded stolen goods, things started to go wrong. Prices on screens changed without warning, making food and fuel too expensive. Traders argued, thinking they were being cheated. It was Ellie again, hacking into the market's computers from thousands of miles away. She made the numbers jump, causing confusion and fights. The colony's leaders couldn't fix it, and the people were angry. Vark heard about this and felt a chill. This wasn't just about ships and stations anymore. It was hitting their homes. Vark called another meeting, this time with his best engineers. "Find the problem," he shouted, his voice echoing in the room. The engineers worked all night, checking wires, screens, and codes. They found nothing, no viruses, no broken parts, no signs of an attack. The humans were too good at hiding their work. Zara's devices were tiny, blending into the Zorak's machines. Ellie's codes were like whispers, gone before anyone could catch them. Vark's engineers were tired and scared, and they had no answers to give him. The galaxy was starting to talk. On the Nexus space station, where traders from many worlds met, the news spread fast. A Velen pilot with big ears and a quick smile told his friends, "The Zorak are losing control. I bet it's the humans." A Taurian merchant nodded, sipping a glowing drink. I heard they shut down a Zorak station without even showing up. That's clever. The stories made the humans sound like heroes, outsmarting the big, scary Zorak. Other races started to wonder if they should help Earth, or at least stay out of their way. Vark felt the pressure growing. He stood alone on his bridge, staring at the map with its red dots. Each dot was a failure, a sign that someone was outsmarting him. He thought about the human trade ship again. Those 10 humans, Sam, Maria, Aisha, Tom, Lila, Jamal, Alina, Raj, May, and Ben, were they the key? Did they have powerful friends? Vark didn't know their names, but he was starting to think they weren't ordinary. He sent a message to Kravos, urging him to move the prisoners to a safer ship. "We can't take risks," Vark said. Kravos didn't listen. He was too busy counting his money. The Zorak were still strong, with many ships and soldiers. But for the first time they were worried. Vark couldn't sleep, his mind racing with questions. Who was doing this? How were they so good at hiding? Were the humans really this smart? He didn't know that Ellie, Leo, Zara, Marcus, Nia, Sophia, Kiera, Lee, Dr. Chen, and Clara were working together, each adding a piece to the plan. The humans weren't scared, they were ready. They were hitting the Zorak with small, sharp moves, like a swarm of bees stinging a giant. Vark looked out the window of his ship into the endless stars. He had always thought the Zorak were unstoppable. Now he wasn't so sure. The red dots on his map were like warning signs, telling him something big was coming. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were getting ready for something even bigger. Vark's claws tightened. He didn't know what the humans were planning, but he knew one thing: they weren't going to stop. Back on Earth, in a quiet city called New Horizon, a group of people gathered in a hidden room. The room was plain, with no windows, no fancy decorations, just a long table and a few chairs. There were no flags waving or cameras flashing. No one outside knew about this meeting. The people inside weren't here to make speeches or argue. They had lost family, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, and friends taken by the Zorak. They were angry, but they stayed calm. They weren't here to talk. They were here to win. The room was filled with some of Earth's smartest and bravest people. Ellie, the hacker and sister of Sam, sat at one end of the table. Her laptop glowed in the dim light, showing maps and codes only she could understand. Next to her was Commander Marcus, the brother of Tom, who had fought pirates and won battles no one thought he could. His face was serious, but his eyes were sharp, like he was already planning his next move. Around the table were others: Zara, the scientist; Leo, the fast pilot; Captain Sophia, the explorer; Kiera, the weapons expert; Nia, the builder; Dr. Chen, the robot maker; Lee, the diplomat; and Clara, the spy. Each one had someone they loved trapped on the Zorak ship, and they were ready to get them back. Ellie spoke first, her voice steady. "The Zorak think they're safe because they're far away," she said, pointing to her screen. It showed a map of space with red dots where Zorak ships and stations were. "But we can hit them from here. I've already hacked their systems. We can do more." She explained how she had shut down a Zorak scout ship and a supply station with her codes. The others nodded, impressed. Ellie wasn't just smart, she was dangerous in her own quiet way. Marcus leaned forward, his hands clasped on the table. "We don't need a big war," he said. "We hit them where it hurts, their ships, their bases, their confidence. We make them feel weak." Marcus had fought in space before, and he knew the Zorak were proud. If they could make the Zorak doubt themselves, it would be better than any battle. He looked at Zara. What can you build to help us? Zara, Aisha's best friend, held up a small device that looked like a shiny marble. This can mess with their power, she said, smiling. It's small, but it can shut down a whole station if we get it close enough. Zara had already used one to turn off a Zorak supply station. She was working on more, each one smarter than the last. I can make drones to carry these, she added. They'll sneak past the Zorak scanners. Leo, Maria's son, tapped his foot excitedly. I can fly those drones, he said. My ship is fast and I know how to hide in nebulas and asteroid fields. Leo was the best pilot in Earth's fleet, able to zip through dangerous places without a scratch. He wanted to help because his mom was one of the captured humans. Just tell me where to go, he said, his eyes bright with determination. Captain Sophia, Elena's wife, spoke next. I've mapped the sector where the Zorek are hiding, she said, pulling up a star chart on a screen. They think they're safe in the dark parts of space, but I know those routes. I can guide our ships to their weak spots. Sophia had explored unknown planets and met strange aliens. She wasn't afraid of the Zorak, and she wasn't going to let them keep her wife. Kiera, Raj's friend, held up a blueprint. I've got something new, she said. It's a tool that can disable Zorak weapons without firing a shot. We don't need to destroy their ships, just make them useless. Kiera was an expert at building things that stopped fights before they started. Her tools could freeze Zorak guns or jam their shields, giving humans the upper hand. Nia, Jamal's cousin, showed her own plans. I can build fake signals, she said. We make the Zorak think we're coming from one direction, but we're really somewhere else. Nia designed space stations, so she knew how to trick scanners. Her idea was to confuse the Zorak, making them chase shadows while the humans snuck in closer. Dr. Chen, Leela's dad, pushed a small robot across the table. It was no bigger than a book with tiny wheels and blinking lights. This can sneak onto their ships, he said. It can cut their wires or steal their data. Dr. Chen was famous for making medical robots, but now he was using his skills to fight. His daughter was trapped, and he wasn't going to wait for someone else to save her. Li Mei's brother spoke softly but firmly. I'm talking to other aliens, he said. The Velans and Taurians don't like the Zorak. They might help us or at least stay out of our way. Li was a diplomat, good at making friends with other worlds. He knew the Zorak had enemies, and he was working to bring those enemies to Earth's side. Clara, Ben's aunt, leaned back in her chair, her eyes sharp. I've already been to a Zorak outpost, she said, surprising everyone. I went in as a trader and left a bug in their system. It's sending us their plans. Clara was a spy, used to sneaking into dangerous places. She had a knack for finding secrets, and she was already learning what the Zorak were doing with the captured humans. The group worked together like pieces of a puzzle. Ellie's hacks, Zara's devices, Leo's flying, Sophia's maps, Kiera's tools, Nia's tricks, Dr. Chen's robots, Lee's allies, and Clara's secrets all fit together. They didn't want to destroy the Zorak or start a big fight. They wanted to be smart, to hit the Zorak where it hurt most. Their pride, their control, their safety. They wanted their families back, and they wanted the Zorak to know they couldn't just take humans and get away with it. The meeting went on for hours. They planned every step carefully, like kids building a fort. Ellie showed them how she could hack more Zorak ships, turning off their engines or lights. Zara sketched new drones that could carry her devices to faraway bases. Leo marked spots on Sophia's map where he could fly without being seen. Kiera explained how her tools could stop Zorak weapons, giving humans time to act. Nia's fake signals would keep the Zorak guessing, while Dr. Chen's robots would sneak in and cause trouble. Lee shared names of alien leaders who might help, and Clara gave them a list of Zorak weaknesses she'd found. They didn't want the Zorak to know they were coming. That was the key. Everything had to be secret, quiet, and fast. Marcus drew a timeline on a screen showing when each move would happen. "We hit their fuel depot first," he said, pointing to a dot on the map. "Then their communication tower, then their main base." Everyone agreed, nodding as they added their own ideas. It was like a game of chess, and the humans were planning 10 moves ahead. Outside the room, no one knew what was happening. The city of New Horizon went on as usual, with people walking to work and kids playing in parks. The news talked about the missing trade ship, but most people didn't know the details. The council, Earth's leaders, kept the plan hidden. They didn't want the Zorak to hear even a whisper of what was coming. They trusted Marcus, Ellie, and the others to do the job. The team worked day and night. Ellie stayed up late, her eyes red from staring at her screen. She sent new codes to Zorak systems, testing ways to shut them down. Zara built her devices in a lab, her hands steady as she connected tiny wires. Leo practiced flying in a simulator, dodging fake asteroids to stay sharp. Sophia studied her maps, memorizing every nebula and star. Kiera tested her tools in a workshop, making sure they worked perfectly. Nia programmed her fake signals, laughing when she made a test scanner show a fleet that wasn't there. Dr. Chen's robots rolled around his lab, ready to be sent into space. Lee made calls to alien worlds, speaking in calm tones to win their trust. Clara slipped out to gather more secrets, her ship vanishing into the stars. They all thought about their loved ones: Sam, Maria, Aisha, Tom, Lila, Jamal, Elena, Raj, May, and Ben. They pictured them cold and scared in a Zorak cell, but still holding on to hope. That hope kept the team going. They weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for their families, for Earth, for every human who believed in them. They knew the Zorak thought humans were weak, but they were ready to show them how wrong they were. The plan wasn't just about tricks and tech. It was about working together. Ellie's codes needed Zara's devices to reach the Zorak. Leo's flying needed Sophia's maps to stay hidden. Kiera's tools needed Nia's signals to confuse the enemy. Dr. Chen's robots needed Clara's secrets to know where to go. Lee's allies gave them a chance to act without other aliens interfering. Marcus kept everyone focused, making sure every piece fit. They were a team, stronger because they trusted each other. The Zorak had no idea what was coming. On their ships, they were starting to worry, but they didn't know about the secret room in New Horizon. They didn't know about Ellie's codes, Zara's marbles, or Leo's speed. They didn't know Sophia's maps, Kiera's tools, or Nia's tricks. They didn't know about Dr. Chen's robots, Lee's friends, or Clara's bugs. They thought the humans were quiet because they were scared. But the humans weren't scared. They were busy. The galaxy was starting to notice. On other planets, aliens like the Velans and Taurians heard rumors about the Zorak's troubles. A Velan trader with big ears and a quick laugh said, "The humans are doing something smart. They're making the Zorak look foolish." A Taurian pilot nodded, his blue skin shining. I heard they shut down a Zorak base without a fight. That's clever. The stories spread, making Earth seem stronger than ever. In the secret room, the team made their final plans. Marcus looked at everyone, his voice steady. "We're not here to destroy the Zorak," he said. "We're here to save our people and show the galaxy that humans don't give up." Everyone nodded, their faces serious but hopeful. They knew the plan was risky, but they believed in it. They believed in each other. As the meeting ended, they left the room one by one, ready to start. Ellie packed her laptop, Zara grabbed her devices, Leo checked his ship, Sophia rolled up her maps, Kiera loaded her tools, Nia saved her signals, Dr. Chen boxed his robots, Lee made one last call, and Clara slipped into the shadows. They didn't know if every part of the plan would work, but they knew they had to try. The Zorak had taken their families, and they were going to get them back. The secret plan was ready. It wasn't loud or flashy. It was quiet, smart, and strong like the humans themselves. The Zorak thought they had won when they took the trade ship. They thought humans were weak. But in that hidden room on Earth, a team was proving them wrong, one careful step at a time.